This is Global Signals by Andrew Dremin, deep dives and insights about retail and FMCG. This map details the capital an American needs to retire. At home, the baseline is $738,000. Overseas, in Spain and Portugal, it drops to $478,000. In Mexico, $356,000. When retail analysts review these massive capital arbitrage opportunities, they tend to predict an automatic nationwide grocery boom across Southern Europe and Latin America. They base predictions on global affordability benchmarks, assuming that as older populations move to lower-cost tiers, grocery turnover naturally rises across the new market. This broad hype is flawed. It relies on macro estimators that obscure the actual realities of operating a retail store. Those macro estimators leave out massive points of friction. When moving abroad, Americans generally lose their domestic Medicare coverage. Private international health insurance and severe cross-border tax liabilities quickly erode that theoretical living cost gap. For a grocery chain, building a strategy on these demographic headlines leads directly to annoyed local shoppers and noticeably weaker operating margins. Confusing macroeconomic demographic shifts with the actual daily grocery store footfall results in shelves full of dead inventory. Retirement migration gets overwhelming media coverage, but the absolute volume of people moving permanently across borders disperses into a relatively small statistical group. Retiring foreigners do not spread evenly across a country. They settle in tight clusters, creating hyper-localized pockets of demand. If a grocery operator with 400 stores changes its national assortment to chase this expat trend, the vast majority of locations will flash red. In 380 of those stores, category margins collapse. The targeted expats do not live inland, and the new inventory sits untouched by domestic families. Only a tiny fraction of the network, usually a few coastal or hub stores, actually benefits from this new inventory. Relying on a standard national-level category strategy fails to capture that specific, localized expat demand, while actively destroying core domestic profits everywhere else. At the shelf level, a demographic clash occurs when you place a 65-year-old foreign resident next to a standard domestic family. Volume expectations break immediately. Expats cook for 1 or 2 people, contrasting the 4 or 5 in a local household. They also lack local brand equity, having zero emotional attachment to heritage labels, bypassing those items entirely. Instead, their baskets skew heavily toward fresh items, ready meals, dietary-specific products, and wine. Crucially, while they spend money on these premium categories, they buy them in strictly limited absolute volumes. This comes down to their price philosophy. Older expats generally have stable pension incomes, but they harbor an absolute aversion to throwing food away. This creates a disaster for standard space productivity. A 1-kilogram family meat pack will sit untouched on the shelf, turning gray and requiring heavy markdowns because a 2-person household refuses to buy it. Meanwhile, single-serve salads and imported breakfast items on the next aisle sell out entirely by midday. When a category manager forces a standard, family-focused planogram into an expat-dense store, they are making an active choice to destroy their own economics. The standard response from most supermarkets to this foreign demand is to create a separate international foods aisle in the back corner. This standard approach wastes valuable floor space. The aisle ends up filled with overpriced, slow-moving novelty items like dusty snack boxes that turn into dead inventory. Retailers need to make a psychological shift. Foreign residents are regular, daily grocery consumers. They are not novelty shoppers. The solution is to take the top 3 to 5 high-velocity foreign staples and integrate them directly into core categories. For example, plant-based and lactose-free dairy alternatives should be shelved directly alongside standard milk. Foreign tea brands belong right next to local category leaders. Placing high-demand foreign items into core aisles is the only reliable method to drive higher turnover. To capture real profit from cross-border retirees, category managers must implement a macro-level strategy called store clustering. This requires isolating specific postal codes where foreign resident density exceeds 15 to 20% of the store's catchment area. Common real-world examples include the Costa Blanca and Costa del Sol in Spain, Portugal's Algarve, or San Miguel de Allende in Mexico. Once identified, the crucial first operational step is to formally tag this specific cluster of stores inside the retailer's inventory and space planning software. Next, these locations must be entirely disconnected from the standard national planogram guidelines. Local store managers need the autonomy to adjust local shelf facings based purely on weekly sales velocity, rather than adhering to rigid national mandates. Logically grouping these stores into a separate cluster is a mandatory prerequisite. You cannot alter shelf-level inventory efficiently without it. If a supermarket operates inside one of these proven expat clusters, this document outlines 4 concrete category adjustments to make on the shop floor to drive high-margin retailing. Rule 1 requires radically downsizing fresh protein packaging. Swap massive family trays for small packs containing single steaks or 2 chicken breasts. Packaging costs per unit rise slightly, but older shoppers gladly pay a premium per kilo to avoid food waste. Rule 2. Eradicate volume-based multi-buys. Older shoppers do not want 3 large detergent bottles taking up limited storage space in their smaller homes. Instead of complex loyalty promotions, switch to everyday low-price strategies or straight single-unit discounts to build trust. Rule 3. Optimize category navigation. Ensure that private label dietary icons like low sodium or gluten-free are bold and placed directly on the front of the pack. Do not attempt to translate all product packaging. It is expensive and frequently violates national labeling laws. Rely on clear bilingual shelf edge labels instead. Rule 4. Protect supplier promotional funding. Keep standard volume driving promotions active across the core 90% of your domestic stores to maintain broader volume rebates. Category buyers must then renegotiate trade terms specifically for the expat cluster, trading those volume expectations for margin support on the new single-pack formats. Finally, store operations teams must track fresh shrink weekly. This verifies that the downsized packs are actually reducing markdown waste and increasing your margin per square meter. You are watching Global Signals by Andrew Drummond, deep dives and insights about retail and FMCG. Treating macro migration not as an abstract demographic trend, but as a hyper-localized shelf space equation is the reliable way to protect FMCG margins.